Ivan stands right now.
The storm has weakened since yesterday, produced a 162-mile-an-hour gust in Cuba yesterday. Now the wind's down to 140 miles an hour. It is still a very dangerous Category 4 storm and a very large storm, which is now moving towards the north-northwest at about 10 miles an hour. We think that motion will continue, maybe turning more towards the north and then northeast. The general area of concern is extreme eastern Louisiana across Mississippi, Alabama, and into northwest Florida. And we think the storm will move in on Thursday morning, and it will most likely be a major hurricane when it moves in.
We also have hurricane advisories in effect, watches and warnings. Watches are in effect for parts of the Gulf Coast from Morgan City to Grand Isle. East of there to Apalachicola is where the warnings are in effect.
Let's start our live coverage here with meteorologist Mike Bettis. And Mike, what can you tell us about the evacuations in that area?
Well, Carl, the mandatory evacuations for Escambia County and Santa Rosa County began this morning at 6 a.m. for those low-lying areas, the barrier islands there, and mobile homes. And so people are heeding those evacuation orders, and they are really getting out of town. As you work your way into Pensacola Beach, where we were earlier today, it's almost a ghost town at this point. They're packing up their cars. They are moving over the bridges and getting toward the mainland, where it's much, much safer, and it's certainly higher ground. Pensacola Beach only sits at its highest point 10 feet above sea level, so very susceptible to storm surge and inland flooding. So if you're making your way out of town, I want to update you on the bridges and let you know what's going on here in the Panhandle. Mid-Bay Bridge, the tolls have been suspended for that bridge, as well as Garcon Bridge, so you don't have to worry about fumbling through your change and getting to pay those tolls. The gates will be open. You can go right through. Should really expedite the process for you. Bay County bridges, this is an important note here. The Bay County bridges will close when we have sustained winds at 55 miles per hour, which may occur tomorrow. And Walton County bridges, they will close as well, but they'll close when the winds are at 40 miles per hour, so the sheriff's deputies will be out there and close those bridges off. It will be unsafe for anyone to travel over those bridges when the winds are that high. But again, just to let you know, everyone evacuating those barrier islands and the beaches, storm surge and inland flooding, a big, big concern. We've seen a lot of people move into higher ground and toward Pensacola, which we have done ourselves. We moved off the beach, much safer to be here on the mainland side. 15 shelters will be available for residents to evacuate to. They can hold up to 19,000 people. So good news on that front, that those shelters will be up and running, and they're up and running right now.
All right, Mike Bettis, thanks for keeping us updated. We also want to take a look at those winds with this system. Hurricane-force winds do extend out quite a ways with this system. The diameter of the hurricane-force winds, 100 miles thereabouts, and that is going to have an impact, of course, on a large area potentially here along the coast. Just to give you an idea of the geography along the coast here of the northern Gulf. So I guess we've been telling you there's quite an area that could be affected by this system.
We want to go to Panama City Beach now, and that's where we find meteorologist Janine Albert. And Janine, some beautiful beaches there, but they may not be that way when this is all said and done.
Right, coastal erosion is going to be a huge factor here. That storm surge, coastal flooding, and that's why residents took it very seriously and they've left. It's the same story here as it was for Mike in Pensacola. I understand the term no man's land, okay? That's what it's like today. It's a no man's land. You look up and down the street now, everything is so dark except for our TV lights. That's it. Our hotel turned off their power, as most of the businesses along PC Beach did today. They just went ahead and turned off their water and turned off their power, and they evacuated. We met many residents today who did the same thing, and here's their story. By Tuesday morning, the streets of Panama City Beach were virtually deserted, and just about all the businesses were boarded up. Hurricane-force winds are not the only concern.
The biggest fear here is just the storm surge. With us being on the eastern side of the storm, apparently the rain and the storm surge. We live out here on the beach. Our business is on the beach, so if it gets up to the 10-15 foot level, then that could be pretty disastrous for this area.
Well, at least if you have to work hard, carry plywood, and be nailing it up to buildings today, the weather is cooperating. So far, there's been no rain, and this thick overcast is hiding the sun, so the temperatures are cool. Hotels were closed down, and guests were asked to leave for their own safety.
We feel that we're doing everything we can to prepare our properties to prevent property damage. Obviously, we don't have full control over that, but the one thing that we know that we've already realized is significant loss in revenues because of guests choosing to canceling.
With 4 storms in just a month, the tourism industry has taken a huge hit. Now, just to let you know how well everybody obeyed the evacuation orders at the beach, I tried to get me and my crew one last hot meal tonight, and I went out in search of food, and all the restaurants and the fast food places are closed and the lights are off. It will be that way for quite some time. Reporting from Panama City Beach, I'm meteorologist Janine Albert. Now back to Carl and Christina.
Those are going to be hard to come by. Thank you very much, Janine. Well, here's the bottom line with the storm. We think it will have a serious impact on the east central Gulf Coast. Impacts will be widespread, including inland. There could be serious flooding inland, and effects will arrive at the coast well in advance of the center. We've got another storm to talk about, Tropical Storm Jean, and that storm is expected to move towards the northwest and towards the Bahamas over the weekend, at which time it could be a minimal hurricane. We'll have more on that in the Tropical Update coming up at 50 minutes past the hour.
And up next, we want to show you how Hurricane Ivan could affect the rest of your week for parts of the East Coast.
Beyond the initial landfall, flooding could be a serious problem as this system moves inland, and we'll talk more about that coming up. Stay tuned.